So, you think you know what international climate change policy is really about? The various groups of eco-protesters are convinced they know what it is about, and may passionately believe that what they are doing will help to save the planet. But from what and from whom? What if I were to tell you they are not only misguided, but alas, they have been duped by the people who are really pulling their strings? Do they realize that the ultimate goal of the people manipulating them has nothing to do with the environment? The cat is out of the bag. The real goal of international climate change policy has nothing to do with the environment. The goal is to cause global economic and political change by facilitating the collapse of Western industrialized society. I will show you that this is not a conspiracy theory. Let's start with a trip down memory lane, starting in 1988, a time before many eco-protesters were born. This was when Tom Macmillan, a former Canadian government minister, told editors and reporters of the Calgary Herald, "No matter if the science of global warming is all phony, climate change provides the greatest opportunity to bring about justice and equality in the world." Was that a meaningless soundbite or a hint at the real intention? I think it was the latter. Fast forward 4 years. At the first United Nations Earth Climate Summit in Rio de Janeiro, in 1992, again before many eco-protesters were a twinkle in their father's eye, Maurice Strong, who organized the summit, revealed the real goal when he said, "What if a small group of world leaders were to conclude that the principal risk to the Earth comes from the actions of the rich countries? In order to save the planet, the group decides, isn't the only hope for the planet that the industrialized civilizations collapse? Isn't it our responsibility to bring that about?" He also said, "It is clear that current lifestyles and consumption patterns of the affluent middle class involving high meat intake, consumption of large amounts of frozen and convenience foods, use of fossil fuels, appliances, home and workplace air conditioning, and suburban housing are not sustainable. A shift is necessary toward lifestyles less geared to environmentally damaging consumption patterns. And either we reduce the world's population voluntarily or nature will do this for us, but brutally." He also said, "Licenses to have babies, incidentally, is something that I got in trouble for some years ago for suggesting even in Canada that this might be necessary at some point, at least some restriction on the right to have a child." Tellingly, Maurice Strong described himself in the following terms: "I am a socialist in ideology, a capitalist in methodology." In 2010, Maurice Strong said, "I am retired from all my official roles, but I am still very active. I have close relationships at the UN. I don't have any role at the UN, but I'm still quite cooperative with a number of UN activities, in particular to China and that region." There you have it. The godfather of international climate change policy was a Malthusian socialist with connections to a country that restricted the number of children people could have. Maurice Strong was not the only advocate of the real purpose of international climate change policy. At the same Rio de Janeiro summit, former U.S. Senator Timothy Wolf, then representing the Clinton-Gore administration as U.S. Undersecretary of State for Global Issues, agreed with Maurice Strong, saying, "We have got to ride the global warming issue. Even if the theory of global warming is wrong, we will be doing the right thing in terms of economic policy and environmental policy. Move forward a decade." Speaking on the 19th of November 2000 at the UN Conference on Climate Change in The Hague, Jacques Chirac, a former Prime Minister and President of France, explained why the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change's climate initiative supported a key Western European Kyoto Agreement objective. He said, "For the first time, humanity is instituting a genuine instrument of global governance, one that should find a place within the World Environmental Organization, which France and the European Union would like to see established." That is right. Jacques Chirac, former Prime Minister and President of France, said global governance was a key European Union objective. Speaking off the text of his prepared remarks, Chirac expressly hailed the Kyoto Protocol for its goal of fostering world governance. Commenting on the UN Conference on Climate Change, David Rothbard of the Committee for a Constructive Tomorrow said, "It has been clear to us for some time, emphasized by the outright ignoring of recent scientific developments that betray its underlying theory. Kyoto was not aimed at addressing any real environmental threat. The proponents' cry of 'we must act now' merely signaled to us an awareness that their true intentions as well as the insufficient scientific basis would become apparent during any extended debate." At least Chirac was honest about it. Transfer of wealth and jobs. Myron Ebel of the Competitive Enterprise Institute added the following about the Kyoto Agreement. One worlders aren't alone in their self-interested support for Kyoto. The third world sees the tremendous transfer of wealth and jobs. Big government types see the erosion of property rights, though the indigenous tribes are now raising Cain over that one. Most of the big business here is participating because they see profit in having their goods mandated or preferred by government fiat. Almost every interest is wetting its beak via Kyoto. Speaking in November 2010, Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change official Ottmar Edenhofer, an economist, said, "One has to free oneself from the illusion that international climate policy is environmental policy. Instead, climate change policy is about how we redistribute de facto the world's wealth." Let me repeat that. An IPCC official said, "One has to free oneself from the illusion that international climate policy is environmental policy. Instead, climate change policy is about how we redistribute de facto the world's wealth." The Long March of Marxism. In 1996, former Soviet Union President Mikhail Gorbachev emphasized the importance, from the Soviets' perspective, of using climate alarmism to advance socialist Marxist objectives when he said, "The threat of environmental crisis will be the international disaster key to unlock the new world order." The ultimate goal of the Marxists' long march through Western institutions, the family, religion, with the temporary exception of Islam, and education, the press and mainstream media, police and judicial system, civil service and even government, is to cause the collapse of Western industrial civilization, which will be replaced by a totalitarian new world order that will dispense with Islam when it has served its purpose. A disturbing realization. Western leaders have known the real goal of international climate change policy for more than 3 decades. With the benefit of hindsight, it looks as if some Western leaders were deliberately or unwittingly facilitating this outcome, and some still are. The economist John Maynard Keynes is credited with saying, "If the facts change, I change my mind." What do you do if the facts change? Let me know in the comments below if you still think international climate change policy is about the environment. If you are unsure whether it is, do your own research and think for yourself. Let me know what you decided in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe and press the like button.